So today on the podcast, we have Darryl Timmers. Darryl's a good buddy of mine. He's a national Go Kart champ. He runs a large karting team, and he's the host of Another Race Weekend, an F1 podcast. But before we jump in, please like, subscribe, and rate the podcast. It helps a lot. When did we first meet?
I'm going to say, 4, 5, 6, something like that. When did you start racing?
I started racing go-karts at Waterloo in 2000.
In 2000, but you didn't start running Goodwood Fellows, stuff like that
Till 05.
Yeah, so it would be that
05, yeah,
when
yeah.
Ian was working with you guys.
Yeah.
That's when we met.
Right. No, that was later. That would have been later. So we definitely met earlier, probably at Lawn Shop.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
With Aaron, probably.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. Because I know you guys were wakeboarding in the river and stuff like that.
That's what it would be.
At that point. Yeah.
That's so funny. We told someone the other day that we used to wakeboard in the creek behind the house, and they're like, looked at me like I had 3 eyes. It's like an inch deep. Yeah, we put a winch on the bridge.
And full scented, or when you fall, you hit rocks, but who cares? It was fun times.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, so we met because you were working for Lon as his full-time go-kart mechanic.
Yeah.
But I want to go back and because last time we spoke unofficially, this is the official time.
Yeah.
I want to get your whole career story.
Yeah.
When did you get into racing, and what brought that about?
Well, my parents used to do the timing and scoring for CTA, which is Canadian Timing Association. I don't even think it exists anymore. But they did majority of the timing and stuff for everything at Motorsports. So like when Trans Am, the Players Series, all that stuff used to come around, they would do the timing and scoring. So we used to have access to Motorsports, and I was there since I was 6 months old. So I actually had a babysitter that was turned 8 and 9, that I used to just be at the racetrack. Like some of my earliest memories is looking over 8 and 9,
At Motorsport.
At Motorsport. They were on the inside of 9, not the outside of 9. And that was before the bridge was, the good tunnel was put in. So we used to hang out on that big steep hill and just go play or whatever. And that's where I initially started the motorsports bug.
So you grew up what got your parents into the timing and scoring?
To be honest, my parents are from the Caribbean, so I don't know. My parents
from Guyana.
Yeah, they're from Guyana.
Yep.
So they met in Canada. My dad did some small things with bikes, nothing crazy. And I think some of his friends from Guyana were racing there, like Ian Phillips, Dave Diedrich, a couple.
We're racing down in
Guyana. They
okay.
used to race in Guyana and stuff like that. So when they came up here, my dad knew them. And then he just started to go to the track, and he's like, hey, I can be at the track for free.
Yep.
Get all the passes and stuff just by working with CTA. So I think that's how my parents started doing it. And then from that point on, I was just always at the racetrack. And my dad started ice racing, doing some stuff like that up in Minden, which still exists, which is pretty cool. I have a bunch of old photos of sitting on the banks of Minden as well. And then when I was 11, 12, my dad's friend was racing karts at the time.
Okay.
And he's like, hey, bring Darryl out and let him see if he likes it. And that's all she wrote.
What track was that at?
Goodwood. It was at Goodwood. So the first go-kart track I went to was at Goodwood. We did go to Whippy Kartways and stuff like that. But my first club that I was part of was Goodwood.
So your dad bought a go-kart right away?
Yeah, he bought it over that winter because my dad's friend was running Swiss Hotless with KT100s and stuff like that, and that was probably a little bit too much for me to jump into at that point at 11 years old. So we ended up buying an old Burrell Honda at the time.
Yep.
I raced that for 2 years. I did a season at Goodwood, and then I ended up going to Sutton for one of the seasons, and then after that I went back to TKC, and I jumped on a Sodi kart when Daryl Mueller was running everything. They were kind of the karts to be on at the time, and then I raced at Goodwood for the longest time with the Sodi stuff, and then when the Sodi stuff folded, I ended up meeting Lon, and we started racing with Lon, and that's when all the rest of the history came around.
So he did Lon own the track at that time?
Yeah, he did. So it was him and DeLeos were owning it at the time.
Right.
When I first got there, it was that Mario guy I can't remember his last name. Old crazy dude. Yeah, I remember he had a rental cart that was a 2-speed rental that was faster than half the 2-strokes out there. And he's out there, no helmet, ripping this thing. And I'm like, that guy's crazy. What is wrong with that guy? But yeah, it was good times. Like, being able to be at the track so much and have, majority of my close friends are from the karting facility now. And yeah, it's so you, when you're growing up and it's like almost every weekend must be at the track just hanging out. Was there a time like maybe 5, 6, 7 years old when you were like, hey, I want to be a race car driver? Yeah.
And what cars did it for you?
The old F1s, but I was a big IndyCar fan. My parents also did the timing and scoring for IndyCar.
At the Toronto Indy?
Yeah, Toronto Indy. We went to Cleveland when I was at the airport, Detroit. We went to Michigan once. My parents didn't like doing the timing on ovals because it was kind of boring sitting there every 30 seconds pushing a button.
Sure.
Yeah, Mid-Ohio. We did a bunch of the
So you traveled some cool tracks.
Yeah, like I used to have an all-access pass when I was like 11. And I would be walking through the paddock, walking through the pits. I would like...
And this is the mid-late 90s?
Yeah, this is late 90s, I would say I was at the very first Toronto Indy, so that was 91, I believe.
91, I think you're right. I think I've got a t-shirt from my dad.
It was 91. So yeah, I was at the very first one, and I didn't miss one until I was in racing and I couldn't get there. So, being able to, like people like Greg Moore and Paul Tracy and stuff was my era of growing up, and the Champ Car kart days where IndyCar was proper and those cars were badass in the end.
Yeah.
And, I followed IndyCar way closer than I did F1. I did watch F1. Obviously I was a big F1 fan, but I was way more of an IndyCar guy just because I was always around it. I had a lot more access to it. It was cool being able to, walk into the paddock where all the drivers have their RVs and I'm just walking up and down. And one of the funny stories I have when I was a kid, I was a Paul Tracy fan growing up and same with the Greg Moore fan. And I was sitting outside Paul Tracy's RV and I looked up and in his window I saw him and he jumped through the ground. And I was like, oh. Well, that's Paul, obviously. And he just stood up and he put his head up a little bit more and then dropped back to the ground. And I was just like laughing outside as like a 10-year-old.
He was messing with you.
Yeah, he was messing with me the whole time. And then he finally came out and he's like, how long did you see me? I'm like, I think from the beginning. I don't know. You were doing that for like 5 to 10 minutes. He's like, yeah, okay, cool. Yeah. He's like, here, what do you want? You want an autograph? I'm like, sure, why not?
That's great.
So it was just like really cool to have access like that. And I was... it was just a whole different world to grow up in and be around, and I didn't really think about karting or know really about the karting side of things until my dad's friend was like, hey, like he's really involved in cars and loves it. Why don't you try to get him involved in this? And then I kind of wished I got involved earlier.
Right. Because by today's standards, 11 or 12 is old.
Yeah.
Very old.
Yeah.
You should be making the jump to cars like the following year.
Yeah, within like 13, 14, you're starting to get into cars and think about it. And back then it was like, seeing a 16-year-old in a car was like, oh my God, what's going on, right? But
so you kart at the club level.
Yep.
And it takes a couple years for you to have success, or are you like one of those kids who's like just quick out of the box?
No, it took me a couple years to get going.
Because everyone else had already been running.
Yeah, and like I was racing against, I don't know if you remember the Eberschlags and Dan McMullen.
Yeah.
And a couple of the other guys that were already like well into it, like Lon and Kyle Herter and the DeLeos that owned the track. I was racing against them and...
fast group of guys.
Yeah, fast group of guys. So it made my learning curve a little bit harsher, but when I finally got that first win, it was like, holy crap, like this is happening. And I ended up winning and getting, it wasn't the first and it wasn't the last. Well, it was first, but it wasn't the last, to say the least.
Yeah.
And I had a pretty successful karting career that, ended up being a full-time career in the end.
So then, you're running at Goodwood.
Yeah.
And you go to work for Lon kind of during that time. Lon's the gold cart importer at that time and running the track. Is that like him saying, hey, like recognize you'll be a good guy, you hang around here a lot and like we can you can work for me and we'll help you out? Is that a factor of you trying to be more competitive?
Yeah. You know, it was kind of weird because I started to be, I guess, a front runner. I hate to say it like that, but yeah, like a front runner right before like last couple of years of high school going into college. And I ended up taking a year off because of college.
Sure.
And, you know, I did 1 or 2 races in the season, just what I could fit in. And then when I got back out of college, that's when Lon's like, hey, what are you doing now? Like, I know you're not racing as much, but do you want to come work for me? And then we can put you back in a cart and we can get you going. I can help you out with that. You can come work, run my dyno, run the kart shop and stuff like that. And we can kind of work together to make this a little bit bigger. Aaron was working with them at the time too. And Aaron was just getting into some other job and stuff like that. So myself and Aaron were working there. And then I just branched off to be the guy that worked at Lon and ended up running his dyno for about 3-4 years.
Yep. So is that where you learned like proper how to do everything?
I really, when we were growing up, it was me and my dad.
Yeah.
I really didn't know what was going on with the kart. Like I just drove it.
Yep.
Like you, we didn't know what we were doing. No. We just did it.
Dude, my dad thought old tires were better when we
exactly.
first started running.
And now we look at it like, no, it's probably because we just didn't know how to drive a new tire. So it was one of those things that, I learned a lot more. And when I started to work on the karts and actually get behind the scenes a lot more. And to be honest, I look back and I wish I knew what I knew then. I guess I knew what I knew now back then because I would understand a lot more what was happening with the karts and why and what I can do to make it better. But we just, that's the difference between this age driver and the drivers like us that were back in the day. We just did it.
Coming out of the history where it was a hobby.
Yeah.
It's funny. I had Ron Fellows was the first guest on, and he was talking about when he got into karting at Georgetown at North Halton.
Oh, wow.
And I told him, actually, it was a funny story. He's like, it was North Halton Kart Club. And I said, we're on the same street as the track, right?
I didn't know that.
He's like, what? Yeah, no, fifth line. And I found it on Google Maps.
That's cool. I didn't know that.
But so he was describing karting as like more of like a grown man's thing to like tinker with. Yeah. Kind of like like they were running alcohol.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And we kind of got into karting, I guess, when it was coming out of that kind of lineage or whatever.
Exactly.
And then into like a defined stepping stone to become a pro race car driver.
Yeah. And then I just look at it now as, the stuff we try to teach these kids how to do. We didn't have that. Like my job now did not exist 15, 20 years ago. Like when we were coming up, there was no karting coaches.
Explain what your job is now, what your company is.
So we run a karting facility. We run Motorsports karting facility, but we also have a karting team that we have about 25, 30 kids that we train and kind of, transition them from go-karts to cars if that's the route they're going. Some of the kids just want to be in karts for, as long as they can. And we support them and develop their skills throughout our team and throughout the national level to the international level. We also have first steps, like we have baby karts that are, it's crazy to say, but 4 to 7 year olds are in them.
Well, you can take my wife, Lauren. She's 5 foot even, so you can put her in a
perfect.
baby car.
We'll put her in a baby car. We'll be fine.
So are you guys you're the importer for Charles Leclerc?
For Ontario, yes.
Okay, for Ontario.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're one of I would say in Canada, we were probably one of the bigger distributors of the Charles Leclerc kart, which is built by Burrell Art. Yeah. It's just one of the branded karts of Burrell. So, it's kind of cool having that history of my very first go-kart was a Burrell, and then now I'm all of a sudden selling these things and our team's running off of them. So it's pretty cool to see the transition.
But you're saying what you do wasn't around.
No, there was no such thing as a karting coach. There was no such thing as there was mechanics, but it was just like, okay, well, make sure my go-kart doesn't stay together. My go-kart stays together. That doesn't fall apart. There was no big teams really. Like if you think about it, there was distributors that had people but we just pitted around each other. Sure. It wasn't like there was one massive tent that everyone was underneath. It was always like, okay, well, this is the karts and parts area, so just park a trailer in this kind of area, and we all just worked around each other. Where now it's, we have big tents, big trailers, big all that stuff, the big show, and it's it's a lot different world to think that all these kids are being kind of spoon fed the information instead of
having to figure it out the hard way.
Exactly. Like with us, our parents didn't know what they were coaching us to do. They just said, go faster.
Oh man. I'm like so many stories where my dad heard a tidbit of good information and then tried it. Like we were running and this was before the plastic rear bumpers. And he got told, dude, you got to have that thing loose. It's got to wiggle. So he's in there and it falls off. Falls off for the race. I'm getting black flagged.
Yeah, exactly. Stuff like that, right? And it has to be loose, but not ready to fall off. Come on, PK. It's honestly, I look at the kids now and it's kind of, I'm starting to take steps back for how much information we give them.
Sure.
Just because, like we say, like these kids don't know how to learn something on their own anymore. They need to be like drilled into their head, do this, where when we grew up racing, it was like, here's the go-kart, drive it.
And you kind of feel the difference.
It out. And we had, like, if you think about the data that we have now with kids, insane. It's unreal. Like when we were racing, we had a max RPM reading, not even like a live reading. It was a max RPM reading. And it's like, well, my gear could be a little bit shorter or a little bit longer or whatever. And the data alone that these kids have, I would kill to have that when I was a kid. Like literally there's no way to hide anymore. The data shows it that you're doing this. Like literally it's right there. You are doing this.
But it's a good tool to speed up the process.
Oh yes, 100%.
And kids get there a lot quicker now.
Yes, a lot faster to get to the pointy end of the field where, it might take us 3-4 years to get that extreme feel of the go-kart to actually start being up front, where these kids, after a season or two of being told, no, you're doing it this way, you have to do it this way, and fixing all of their small things over and over again, and having the coaches like us are definitely accelerating the process a little bit more.
So you've taken, you're kind of, your first steps into starting your own business, what you're doing now is working with Dalton Kellett.
Yes.
Who runs IndyCar now.
Yes, he does.
Second year in IndyCar for AJ Foyt.
Yes.
So you've kind of, tell me about that process, because you kind of went along for the entire ride in his career, almost all the way up to IndyCar.
Yeah,
We're close.
So what we did was he actually walked into Lon's place, and Mark was the type of guy that was just like, I'd prefer someone else to take care of everything. I'm not a guy to get hands on really all the time. So we kind of put a deal together that I would start coaching Dalton and doing everything for them. I was still working for Lon at the time. Mm-hmm. And then after a year, we just kind of said, you know what, I'll go full time with Dalton. And I ended up stopped working for Lon at the time. We were still using the gold carts and all of Lon's stuff.
Yeah.
I started working with Dalton when he was 13, I believe it was. Mm-hmm. And then we worked, we did karting for about 4 to 5 years. We, like, from his first day in a go-kart that we did 6 hours in the rain. That was the very first day that we actually did. It was just funny. That was how it all worked out. But we transitioned him from a 4-stroke driver all the way up to having a shifter in the end. And then I transitioned him into cars. So we went the 1600 route, and then I kind of managed his car career going up into the road to Indy and USF and stuff like that. And then I had some opportunities to kind of branch off and kind of expand my company more. Instead of concentrating on one driver, I was able to bring on a bunch more. And we're still friends to this day. Like I talked to him last week. He was at my wedding. So he's just, me and Dalton are really close, and it was cool to see a kid that was pretty much scared to step on the gas the first day to winning Florida Winter Tour races, which was a huge thing back in the day.
Totally.
And
starting karting at the same age you did.
Yeah.
Late.
And he started later. He was like almost 14 by the time he actually got a full season of racing in. We did some testing, in the October time before his first season, but it was nothing crazy. It was more, I believe he started at 14, actually racing, and then he didn't get into cars until he was probably 18.
Right.
Which, again, it's
late
late.
Now. Yeah. So you took a year off during college.
Yeah.
What'd you take at college?
Automotive products design. So like 3D CAD modeling and stuff like that for the automotive
So you
industry.
you always knew you wanted to be in a race shop or at the track or kind of have your foot.
Yeah. I did my co-ops at Multimatic.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. It was fun. Different part of my life, definitely. Kind of realized, sitting behind a desk would be all right, playing with, CAD modeling and stuff like that. But I just looked at it as, am I going to be happy my whole life doing this?
Sure.
And I had something that I was starting already in the background that was kind of working out. So I just decided to go that route, and I use it every once in a while with 3D printing and stuff like that, but nothing too crazy.
No, for sure. Now you could pay a 13-year-old kid to do it.
Exactly.
So you, did you still have aspirations, or did you ever really have like solid aspirations to be a pro race car driver?
Yeah, when I was younger, I definitely, when people ask me what I wanted to do, I always said I wanted to be a race car driver. I tried to, once I was in college, I was also running in cars at the time in GT Sprints in Canada, and then
Tell me about that. How did that come about?
It was actually Dave Diedrich at Mazda's Performance. He was running the Nissan Sentra series at that time. He was actually one of the owners of it, and Ian Phillips was one of my dad's friends, was racing for Dave at the time. He knew, I guess, about me from karting and stuff like that, and my dad and him started to chat a little bit more, and I ended up jumping into cars with him. It was really cool at that time because there was, 15, 20 guys in the same spec car.
Yeah.
And when I was racing, I didn't finish off the podium when I did the year and a half with them. And it wasn't like it was a full season. It was just like, okay, I can afford to do this one. I'm going to do this one. I'm going to do this one. And then me and Dave developed a really good relationship after that. I guess he had faith that I was pretty quick. So he was willing to help me out and get me into a car. And whenever he had a gentleman racer that was doing endurance races, he would call me up and kind of put me in the car with him.
Cool.
So I got to do a couple of really cool events, like the 13 hours of VIR and the Daytona race. There's a bunch of random good, cool events I did. I ended up doing a couple of Grand Am events with him as well, because they ended up building Nissan Sentra the SER or SVR?
Okay.
The Spec V.
Spec V,
The Spec V Sentras.
Yeah.
And this thing sounded like a V8 when you started it up. It was crazy.
What year is this? Like 05?
This was when I finally did the Grand Am stuff. I'm going to say 07, 08.
Okay.
Yeah, 07 or 08. When I actually, started to do that stuff. And then the timing hit, that was middle of the recession. There wasn't really a company out there that wasn't hurting and didn't have any extra cash to start sponsoring stuff. And I had some small sponsors here and there, but nothing came to
you need
fruition.
That big piece to go racing.
Exactly. And when I was working with Dalton, I was still doing that at the same time. And it just kind of started getting older and looking at, what could be better for the future. Obviously, I would love to be racing and doing all that stuff. And, there's a bunch of friends that went that route and got to that route, and hey, it's awesome. I, support them all the way through. And with me, it was just, I kind of started to realize that I wasn't going to be that guy that, out of nowhere gets a huge sponsor and was able to do it because my parents weren't financially able to do it.
Yep.
And every race I did, there was a sponsor was putting up the money, or Dave helped me out and gave me like a ride for like $1,500, like something ridiculously cheap. So, I still dabbled in stuff with Dave whenever he needed me, but I just kind of focused on my career instead of, the training aspect and the coaching aspect, which I really enjoy, working with these kids and stuff like that. So.
How many guys, what's your biggest group of karters under your tent that you've had so far?
We've had, I'm going to say the biggest one was probably 28 drivers that we had to take care of. Yeah, it was exactly that word, insane. I always joke with our team now that I wish I told everyone my name was Bill so that I don't hear Darryl all day long. And
Darryl, what gear should I run?
Yeah, the number one question I get, and it's so annoying, is when it's starting to rain a little bit or be dry, and they're like, wets or dries? And it's like, I don't know. Like, we haven't even got on track yet. And it's like, well, what do you think? Well, it's wet out there. So I'm assuming wets. Like, it's the number one question. Wets or dries? Wets or dries? And it's just like, oh my gosh.
That's a tough call to make.
Yeah, it is. But it's also like, you know, if it's raining right now, we should probably have wets on.
Yep.
But they can't just make that decision on their own. And it's like, so you have 28 people walking up to you going, wets or dries, wets or dries, wets or dries.
That's
and it's
funny.
like, everyone, we are going wets this session. And then the next session, it could start drying out. So you're like, okay, we're going to slowly start transitioning to dries. And then it's just funny. It's cool.
It's good taking guys through that whole learning process.
Yeah.
So that must be fun. Like, it must be rewarding.
It is. You know, we had a kid, Anthony Martella. Well, we have a kid that races for us, Anthony Martella. And same thing, his first day in a go-kart, seconds, 10 seconds, 11 seconds off the pace, wouldn't touch the gas, wouldn't do anything. So we worked at it. His dad really wanted him in racing. He really wanted it. He had the drive to do it. He was at the racetrack 2-3 times a week. We were pushing him really hard. By the end of his first season, he ended up putting it on pole for the very last round of fellows, which was like, holy crap, where'd that come from? And then last year, which was his second year of racing, he ended up winning the Canadian Nationals. So
no way.
Yeah.
Second year of racing.
Second year of racing.
National champion.
Yep. National champion. He's honestly, he's got a drive to him. You know, but situations like that is what makes me want to show up to a racetrack on Sunday. It's
find the next hot kid.
Yeah, finding that kid, or just even if they don't want to be a race car driver, just seeing the transition from being timid, or that kid that's like being lapped in his first event and stuff like that, to winning the Canadian Nationals within a year and a half.
Yep.
It just kind of gives you faith in our program a little bit more, you know, and seeing that hard work does pay off. You know?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So you, hang on, let me back this question up. You're the biggest race of your career.
Yeah.
Tell me about that, because I think I know exactly what it is.
I think everyone knows that one. I decided to race in the 2017 Canadian Nationals.
Yep.
I decided on the Thursday, and I literally built the kart the Thursday, and everyone just threw everything on together, and it was just like, okay, let's do this. Why not? I haven't raced in I don't know how long. All the kids that I trained, you know, it's starting to get to that part where they haven't seen you in a kart, and they're like, you really know what you're doing,
yeah.
You know? Like, they're always like, oh, I haven't even seen you race, and it's like, yeah, because I'm also triple your age. That's why you haven't seen me race, but decided to jump into it for the Nationals. Yeah, it was one of those weekends where I actually had bought an engagement ring for my girlfriend at the time, which was my wife now. And I just so happened it was my jeweler was one of our clients, and she brought the ring that weekend just because it was done. And I like no plan whatsoever, just like, I'll figure out what I'm going to do with this thing, but at least I have it now. And a couple of my good buddies, Robert Wickens, Curtis, my colleague, and Mark Steele, we were sitting around, and they're like, so if you win this weekend, well, you have the ring, like, you're doing this. And I'm like, whatever, sure. If I win, no problem, I'll do it.
Right.
And so I was racing against Mark on the track at that time, and sure as shit, I won. I ended up taking the win on 2 laps to go. No, the last lap pass. It was a last lap. Didn't lead a lap all weekend,
nice.
except for the one that counted. And it's actually on YouTube. And I was on the cool down lap, and I was obviously super happy to win the Canadian Nationals. And
then you got nervous.
And then, no, Mark reminded me. Mark pulled
on the
up
cool down lap.
On the cool down lap. It's in the YouTube video. You see Mark come up to me, and he's like, you know what you're doing right now, right? You're doing it. I'm like, oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, I guess I'm doing this. So I ended up, on the podium, called my girlfriend up after getting the championship trophy and having a chat with Paul Cook. Brought her up and dropped the question on one knee, and the rest is history. We got married good. 2 years later, so it was one of those days that it's unforgettable. That's for sure. It was, I have a lot of wins and a lot of cool ones that I'm super stoked about. But
that's got to be the pinnacle.
That's it right there. That topped the most.
That's good. So speaking of cool races that you've done, I didn't know you guys at the time. This was probably like 2002 or 3. You guys put together an ice race at Aaron's pond, Aaron's parents' pond.
Yes. Yeah, it was
because I had a subscription to Inside Karting.
Yeah.
And I saw this like article, and it was like, oh, this is sick.
Yeah. It was kind of a spur of the moment thing. Just studded some tires and had at it, and good times to say the least. And we ended up actually doing another one up in Minden. We brought 4 karts up just because we were racing cars on ice at the time. And we're like, let's bring this go-kart out. So we studded a set of tires, 4 sets of tires, had 4 go-karts, and kind of did the same thing. Like, it's honestly, go-karts on ice is a whole new thing because of the studs. You don't have enough power enough horsepower to break traction on the studs. Yeah. So really and truly, you don't need a brake. You just throw the cart sideways and it just goes brrr and slows it right back down.
Right, because it's bound up.
Exactly. So if you totally understand how to kind of time it, that you can just chuck the car sideways and kind of slow it down that way. And by the time you're at the apex, because there's no suspension, like you said, the chassis flexes and digs the studs in, and it's a good time. We got to do it.
Yeah, we definitely have to do it.
Yeah, it's always a good time. We've had some fun times, in karts and spontaneous times.
So what, with the karting, because you've had a long karting career and successful, do you have any good, and I don't want to say cheating stories, but I do want to say cheating stories. Do you have any good, I'll put it a better way. Yeah. Dale Jr. puts it on his podcast, him and those guys, they say, do you have any good innovation stories where you guys were innovative or at least ahead of the rule book?
Yeah.
What's one you can say?
So everyone knows Lon loved the gray area of the book.
Sure.
And
for people who don't know, Lon was the gold card importer. You raced for him, and I raced for him at the same time.
Yeah. And his Hondas were monstrous at the time. I got a funny one. It was more of a way around something that there was some drama, I guess, when 2 track owners decided to split ways. Okay. And let's just say Lon was not exactly welcome at the track.
Yep.
We decided that we were going to go race the first round of Ron Fellows,
which was the big regional championship. Yeah.
And at the time, you needed these Ontario tires, and they had a sticker on the side of it.
The Vegas.
Yeah, and the importer would refused to sell us tires. So we were like, well, we're going to go race. Like, I don't care. Let's do this. So we decided that the Ontario sticker was very easy to replicate, and we needed tires, so we bought our skid of tires and made our own little Ontario sticker and went out there and waited. I remember I was P3. Kyle was, I believe, off pole. Pierce was in there too, and a couple of other Karts and Parts guys were in the top 10. And right before we went out for the final, Norm Jennings comes storming down to the grid.
Tech director?
Yeah, the tech director at the time comes storming down to the grid and looks at our tires and peels off all of our Ontario stickers, and we're all like, oh crap, here we go. So needless to say, we weren't exactly
did you guys get DQ'd?
We at first we originally did, but then after they found out why we did it, and the importer was refusing to sell us tires, we ended up getting it all reversed. And people thought that we were cheating with the tires, but they're the same tire that everyone else bought. But
so they weren't actually any faster. It wasn't anything special.
It wasn't nothing special. It was just one of those, we want to race, and this is the only way to do it, so let's do it. Yeah. And we did it, and we did get caught. But in the end, the drivers didn't take the blame for it. Lon just got a little bit of a talking to, and who he was beefing with at the time got a little bit of a talking to, and we ended up with that.
Yeah.
Any other innovation stories?
I would say some real innovation. It doesn't have to be you.
So there was a driver. Yeah, there was a driver that there was power mist at the time. So there was
mist.
Yeah,
What's
it was
power
a
mist?
Fuel additive that would give you 10% more horsepower. They figured out how to detect it because it would be sitting in your tank and whatever. But I knew of a certain individual that would start the race with a syringe taped underneath his seat where the fuel line would run.
Okay.
And slowly inject this into his fuel lines.
Wait. Like a needle?
A needle.
Into the fuel line?
Into the fuel line.
Like it would be a pinhole.
A pinhole into the fuel line. And he started, throughout the race, would inject this straight into the fuel line. Push to pass. Yeah, pretty much. And this guy was pretty dominant for a while, and we weren't understanding why until one driver noticed him throw something on the cool down lap. And there would always be a little bit of a leak coming out of his fuel line. And when they kind of put two and two together, they found the syringe, and
no way.
And he was caught and figured out why he was so quick all of a sudden, and was always up there. And I was laughing my butt off because it was like, wow, that's ballsy.
Innovative.
But he would go on a track walk after, grab the needle or syringe or whatever. He wouldn't leave it out there. He would always say, I went to go get it. Like, I'm not that guy.
Yeah.
But it's just, that's innovation for you.
Wow.
There used to be another one. There's this thing, we called it the lawn herder rule. It was you were in that era of racing where they made us run our engines for 5 minutes on the grid.
I remember that. Because they thought guys were filling or guys were
nervous. So there was a couple people on the grid that wouldn't start their engine until they're literally leaving the grid.
Like, I remember
it would be literally going out, start the motor.
Yeah.
And same type of thing where there was fuel additives, but the carburetor of a Honda, because we didn't burn fuel so quickly, there would be you could fill the bowl, and it would give you 3 or 4 laps of straight of whatever you put in there.
Yep.
And I know of a couple of people that made that rule because they knew that something was up, because the first 2-3 laps that they would check out, and then slowly the field would catch you.
Yep.
But you know, in the Honda days, to break away, you needed help.
Yep.
And it was no way you can break away on your own. So they made this rule for the 5-minute rule where they made everyone idle for 5 minutes on the grid.
Yeah, that sucked.
Yeah, that was, because half the people would foul plugs. And, and it was just like, if you did, you were like, oh, I know why this was happening. And it was funny. There was so many small little things that would go on that, you would look back now and just be like, wow. There was one final fun story. We used to have ramp racing, the Ramples. Yeah. Jen and
Greg.
Yeah. And I used to race against Jen a lot. And our motors, just the way Lon built them, it wasn't anything crazy. We'd go, 69, 7,000, 7,100 RPMs, where Remp would build their engines. For some reason, they wouldn't want it going over 6,400 RPM, 6,500 RPM. Which is nothing for our motors. Like, we can scream that all day long and nothing would happen. So we're at Barrie Grand Prix, and at this point, Jen was very quick. And
I remember that race.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, the Barrie Grand Prix was baddest race. It was
Best race.
Through the streets of Barrie, hay bales, like old school street course, but for karting on the frickin' bay.
Yeah, like you could almost land in the water if you flipped at certain areas. And it was the best.
It was the pinnacle of like karting in Canada.
It was the best. And Jen was up front, and we knew her motor couldn't last. And remember, the straightaway on that was
a big
and long straightaway. So you were on the valve floating is what we used to call it.
Yep.
It was just the valves can't go any faster, so they would start to float. And you would be floating your valves forever because it's such a long straightaway. But because their motors didn't take the valves floating very much, we could almost blow their engines up.
You'd push her.
On purpose.
Yeah.
So, she was leading the race, and we're like, okay, let's just push her. And she was swerving, trying to get us off her bumper because she knew what we were trying to do. And nope, one guy would sit on the outside, the other guy on the inside, and she would swerve one way, boom, boom, push. And sure as shit, 5 laps in, I've never seen a motor blow up so bad in my life. I drove by her, and the case cracked, but blew up.
Yep.
But the head was still attached to the case somehow, and it was just boom, boom, like still in motion with the connecting rod and the piston. And there was so many parts all over the track. Like, the next lap you come by and there's just motor shrapnel everywhere, and she's just
pissed
at us. You guys did that on purpose, blah, blah, blah. We're like, I don't know what you're talking about. We're just drafting, man. It's 4-stroke. This is what we're doing. What are you talking about? Yeah, that was, we used to do that a lot. Just to have some good times, and once you know who you're driving with and racing against,
then it's fun.
Yeah, you know how to get around certain things, I guess you can say. And yeah, that was one of those times that we were laughing for a while after that.
That race was so good. I remember one year I won it and jumped from the podium celebration. I jumped in the water in my suit.
Yeah.
And then I went wakeboarding behind someone's jet ski or something.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It was awesome. I actually was leading that race with the Hughes at the time, and we took off and we were lapping someone. I'll keep him nameless at this point. And he decided to, I guess, spin as we were about to lap him, and I T-boned him while I was leading, and took me right out of the race. Like, I ended up finishing fourth, but still, like,
out of contention.
We were gone, gone. And
Aaron won, I'm sure.
Yeah, Aaron won. Yeah. Aaron ended up winning it, and pretty much I pushed him away from the whole pack, and we almost had the front straightaway on Evan Hayden at the time. And Evan, once I broke, there was 5 laps left. Well, not broke, but I crashed, and there was 5 laps left. And Evan caught Aaron in those 5 laps because he didn't have us pushing him anymore. And he was just that was crazy. Like, that was so close. But then he ended up winning. Well, so going down the back straightaway, locking it up, spinning the cart out, hit the barrier backwards, and went to and it was like the beer garden was at that point. Remember how like all those drunk people would be over the wall, like, rah! So they ended up like dumping beers into his helmet while he was sitting there. Like, it was good times, man. That was honestly one of the best races I could say by far in my life. Like,
for sure.
It was. I wish we could still go back there. It was. It's not possible anymore because the parking lot's all changed in the whole downtown. But I truly think bringing back something like that would make the sport grow again. Yeah,
like a cool street course. You did like an exhibition race at the Toronto Indy?
Yeah. So because Sunoco was sponsoring the Indy, we did a little promo. That was another fun time. We had road taxes at the time, myself and Pierce. And we ended up having the GT 500 as the pace car. Okay. And, big heavy Mustang.
Yeah.
And we were little go-karts. So down the straightaway all day long, the guy would just see you later, but he would brake at the 500-foot marker, and we're braking at the 100-foot marker.
Did you guys pass the pace car?
We let's just say after the first run, the guy, Paul Cook, was in the car with him. And Paul came up to us and goes,
Paul Cook's head of ASN Canada, ASN FIA, the sanctioning body guy.
So he comes up to myself and Pierce and is like, guys, you need to, don't pressure this guy because he thinks that he's going to take off on you, and he can't. Like, down the straightaway, yes, he's gone. Yep. But then as soon as the tight section of Toronto comes in, we're literally one corner on his bumper again. Yep. And the guy was pushing with Paul in the car, and he almost looped it. So Paul's just like, guys, relax. Okay, Paul, no problem. So that was the Friday we did the first demo, and then Saturday came around, and obviously, a couple of words are exchanged between the pace car driver and us, and we're in little go-karts. Yeah, but all right, well, we'll see what happens. And went into Saturdays, and we were all over him in the tight stuff, and then down the straightaway, take off on us again, and so I guess he pushed his brake zone a little bit too hard and blew down the back straightaway, ended up going into the runoff, didn't hit anything, luckily.
Holy cow.
And Pierce came to a stop and did the old, here you go, go ahead, sir. And let's just say he wasn't too happy with us that he did that. We had another talking to from Paul.
Yeah, that's good.
And we were, we actually had to put a speed limit on how fast we can go because this guy.
It's not even a race.
No, it's not even a race. It's just literally, we were supposed to be in a parade, like with a bunch of other kids behind us, and we were just, this guy started going faster and faster and faster to try to take off on us, and me and Pierce are like, let's go, whenever you want, man, let's go.
That's funny.
And yeah, it was a good time. We ended up, I think we turned our connecting rods and pistons blue because we were full throttle at top speed for so long down the back straightaway.
Yeah. Such a long straightaway down Lakeshore.
Yeah, like the whole time. So we had the lowest gear possible we can put on the thing, and we ended up hitting, it was like over 80 mile an hour in a go-kart. That's a half inch off the ground.
That's quick.
And yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Have you ever run any races against like any of your heroes or like real impressive guys?
The only guys I can say I've raced against that were like, holy cow, was obviously someone like Robert Wickens. You know, he's one of my friends, but I rate him as probably the best Canadian driver out there.
I agree. I think like what he did when he came to IndyCar showed everyone
that he should have been in an F1 car in the end. He should have been the next F1 Canadian driver. You know, having him with everything that happened, and you know, it is sad to see everything like that, but it's also, you know, he just bounced back from, you know, I hate to say it, but I was at the hospital when everything went down, and the doctors told us like there's no way of him walking again. Like, you guys have to get used to this. And for him to be back in a car this year and win his very first race back in a car just shows him like he's incredible. Like, I don't even know what to say except that guy is one of the top drivers that I've ever had the privilege of being around and being on the same track as him. Like, when I would show up to a race and, you know, Rob's running 3 classes and shifter, DD2 and Rotax senior, and I'm racing against him in just the one Rotax senior class. And, you know, when Rob was there, it was like, holy crap, I got to be on my game because Rob's here. You know, Rob was one of the top drivers when we were coming up, and you know, having him around and becoming closer as we got older. You know, we were friends. We knew of each other back in karts, but we weren't really close or anything until later on in life. And you know, looking back now and you know, being around someone, sorry to say, with that greatness of their sport, and showing his dedication and how hard he works at it. And I've learned so much off of him just by being around him at the racetrack of like how you should go about your day, and what, you know, some of the things I teach kids are from Rob, you know, and to be that influential when you're not even that really big in the sport, like until he was in IndyCar and he was running DTM. So DTM
he's just kind of over in Europe doing his thing, but it's not like the races were televised in the States or
and and if you look at his DTM career, he wasn't even so he won GP2, like the championship underneath F1, and still didn't get the ride in F1 because of obviously money situations. He went to the junior test for F1, was like put the Marussia, which was a car that didn't even finish last, and he put it, you know, in a decent position and ahead of people, and they were like, holy crap, like this kid's good. When he did those tests and everything, everyone kind of was like, this kid should be in F1. It's kind of like a Nick DeVries situation that's going on right now, where he should be in F1, but he's not. No one took Rob, and David Coulthard ended up being like, hey, like, if no one's going to take this guy, I'll take him to our DTM team. Sure. They put him in the number 3 team. Like, there's 3 Mercedes teams at the time. They put him in the number 3 team, number 6 car. And he was like top 5 in the thing. And they're like, that shouldn't be. That's like, you know, that's, you know, like Mercedes it's like Mercedes has their team, and then there's the Williams team. Yeah. And it's like Williams podium all the time with that car, and it's like, this isn't right. That shouldn't be how it is. And so they were like, okay, let's just put him in a number 2 car, and he's winning races in that thing, like a number 2 team, not even a number 1 team yet. And then finally they're like, okay, this kid deserves to be in the number 1 team, and he battled for championships, and he lost the championship in the final round. Yeah. And you know, with European racing, it's very cutthroat. For sure. Like, very cutthroat. Like, if you don't start the season off, you don't have everything. So when he was Pascal Wehrheim's teammate, he didn't start the season strong. Had a couple of accidents. Obviously, it happens, and because of that, everything goes into Pascal. So if there's only one good wing, one driver, he gets it. If there's only one splitter, he gets it. And you know, he still finished in the top 5 of that championship, not having the top. And Pascal won the championship. So it just shows, you know, in that world, it's like, it's if you're winning the championship, you have a chance. But if not, the team's not going to give you everything, because there's going to be the teammate that needs everything to win the championship, right? So after the first 3 rounds, they decide who's going in for the championship, and Pascal was leading at that time, and he got everything. But you know, and then he made the decision to kind of come over to IndyCar. Him and James obviously had that talk for a couple of years, and he ended up coming over to IndyCar and almost won his very first race in IndyCar.
Well, he put it on the pole, right?
He put it on pole, and Rossi took him out with 2 laps to go.
And yeah, would have won.
Yeah, we were there.
And then freaking backed it up on the ovals.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And a lot of the drivers you can see now, like even Jimmy Johnson, who's an oval guy, struggles in that car on the ovals.
Struggles.
And
it's scary.
It is.
Those cars are fast.
They average 220 mile an hour on average on a super speedway. And
it's insane.
That's ridiculous.
It's too fast for me.
It is too fast.
Yeah.
I say that all the time. I'm like, IndyCar is fine. Indianapolis they have to go to just because of the heritage. Fine, make that track.
Totally.
Whatever. It's fine. It's for a super speedway, it's pretty safe because of how the whole thing is spread out with the turns and stuff like that. So, it's pretty, in quotations, safer than other ones.
Yeah.
But you go to something like Las Vegas, or Texas, where it's constant full throttle on a corner, guys are racing in a pack like NASCAR.
Yeah.
That's when it gets dangerous. And, there's certain tracks that I don't think IndyCar should be at. I don't think they should be going into any ovals outside of a 1.5 mile oval. Keep the average speed under 100, under 200 for sure.
Yeah.
Make it like 180, 190 mile an hour.
And even as a fairly savvy fan like myself, I don't care if they're going 220 or 185.
No. I'd rather them going 185 in a pack of like 30 of them.
Yeah.
And, when they hit the wall, they hit the wall. Nothing's crazy. But when you're at super speedways and stuff goes wrong, it's gnarly, man. Like, it is dangerous to say the least. And people are like, well, it's what the fans want. No, the fans don't want people getting hurt. They just want close racing. And if you put them on a 1 mile oval like Phoenix or something like that, it's still a really good race. They're all bumper to bumper still. It's just
that's a good point. Do you think Robbie going to IndyCar kind of showed a lot of those guys in Europe that that's a viable thing to do, and there's more and more guys now doing it?
Yeah, I think so. I think seeing Rob transition so well into the IndyCar definitely helped the Europeans from being like, okay, well, this isn't a deadbeat series. This is an actual series. It's a good series. The cars it's a spec car with 2 spec aero packages, one with the Chevy, one with the Honda. So
because IndyCar's not like Formula One, where it's just one manufacturer, the second manufacturer's, third and fourth, 1, 2.
No,
they're the same car, and you can't do much different.
You can go buy a car today and go race against Ganassi. Yeah, and it's the exact same car that Ganassi has to what we have.
That's cool.
And that's why I think what's saved IndyCar at this point, they had the first, the first spec car that they had wasn't very good racing wise. And then the new Delaris came out, and it showed that, a spec chassis and a spec aero package is going to help a lot. Yeah, there's 2 different manufacturers for the aero packages, but really and truly they're not crazy different. It's just a way to show some sort of, diversity, I guess.
Sure. And look, if you were able to race any form of racing, and you're probably biased, obviously, we all are, and it to be considered the highest level of racing, what would you do? Because obviously, I'll race F1 because it's the highest level, or NASCAR Cup. I think a lot of guys are there because it's the highest level, but maybe they're not going to enjoy it as much. Yeah. What would be your answer as far as the form of racing? If you could be considered world champion in lawnmower racing or something.
I honestly love prototypes. I love how...
what kind of prototypes?
Like P1s, P2s, LMP3s. Okay. Like the cars that are built to be aero, like full aero cars. You can corner faster than an F1 car. You just don't have the power like an F1 car. Okay. And I think that whole series of the races you get to do of Le Mans and Daytona and, Sebring or Nürburgring, all these crazy tracks that you get to go to and compete. And what I would love to be able to do is to have a team full of my friends that's like, all right, let's go race Le Mans this weekend. And I think that would be I always loved the open wheel stuff. Obviously F1 would be a cool thing to do. I just don't like how car dependent that series is at times. Hopefully the new rules package is going to help a lot. But I would say, you know, that, or even I would love to just go race some shifters, like go race a nice KZ 125 and have at her. Like, I think that would be really, really fun to do. And, you know, every time I drive one, I still come off smiling. And I think if we could make that the pinnacle of racing and say that you're the world champion of karting, that would be pretty cool. Yeah.
So if you, because I asked Ron this question, Ron Fellows, I said, Ron, okay, you know, he's an advocate for trying to get more kids out of karting into cars. Yeah. Obviously he runs a karting series now. Yeah. When we were growing up, he did the karting series. Yeah. If you had a magic wand, what kind of series would you create for getting kids kind of out of karting and creating that first stepping stone? And like, what would be the ingredients?
I honestly think the F4 car is a really good car for kids to learn in.
What's that?
It's Formula 4. It's a US, there's a US and a European car. I think Abarth makes the UK car.
So like a low downforce open wheel car.
Yeah, very low downforce. The aero doesn't, like, it helps, but it doesn't, it's not like the be all and end all. They have a slick that they race on, not a ton of horsepower, but enough horsepower for, you know, you can get really close racing. I really do think that's probably the best stepping stone right now for the kids. If we didn't have any, the problem is the budgets now. Right. Everyone, like, if you look at what the budgets are to start racing cars, there's no way
the average guy can.
No way.
Yeah.
Like, it's more than what an average salary is nowadays. And you know, you look at it, it's the thing that hurts our sport the most. Because I always say the best race car driver in the world will never be discovered. Sure. They're sitting at home on Gran Turismo or iRacing right now, and they're just having some fun with their buddies, but they just can't afford to do our sport. If I could and have a magic wand, I would have probably 5 spots in karting. That's just like, okay, you can't afford it. Here you go, fully expense paid rides. You just come race, but you have to do the shootout. You have to do stuff to show that you have the talent. Yep. And then if I could have a magic wand, I would do the USF4 stuff, have a full paid ride for someone out of karting to go do that. And then, you know, at least that gives them a chance, because if you win USF4, you get a good purse to go race another series. Yep. But ideally I would put them into the Indy, the road to Indy. Sure. Just because the USF, you know, that's the series where if you win and you're actually good, you know, you win your USF 2000 championship, you get a full ride in Pro Indy. And if you win your Pro Indy championship, you get a full ride in Indy Lights.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, full paid, everything.
Really?
Yeah.
But who pays for that? The series?
The series pays for it.
Wow.
And then if you win Indy Lights, you get 3 races in IndyCar. One of them has to be the Indy 500, yeah.
No way.
So it usually ends up being the first 3 races.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, so like, that's why if I could magically wave a wand, it would be a full season of F4 and a full season of USF that they get paid for. Yep. And it's like, hey, you got to this point, now it's up to you to perform and take it the rest of the way.
So if you are top of the heap, you can at least get the eyeballs on you. Yeah. You can get the opportunity.
Oliver Askew did that.
Wow.
Won every championship leading up to all the way to IndyCar. And that's how he got there. Kyle Kirkwood, same thing.
And I guess, I'm blanking on the name. That's why, who's the kid who came back now to Indy Lights? He just won the race. His dad's a legend. Brabham. Yep. Yeah. So that's why he's back in Indy Lights. Yeah. Because he's got the opportunity to
win the championship, get to IndyCar.
Interesting.
So that's why, you know, racing in Europe, it's very, very cutthroat. Like, who cares if you win the championship? It's still another €500,000 to go do this. Yep. At least in North America, there is some sort of help. Right. If you are that raw talent and you can afford to pay for a USF 2000 ride for a season, you have a chance to make it. But once we lost tobacco and alcohol advertising and stuff like that, we lost those big sponsors to support those guys. Like when Schumacher didn't have money to get anywhere, the team had a big sponsor and put him in the car.
Right.
Now teams have the sponsor, but they look at it as that's running costs for them. They're not looking at it as let's put the fastest kid in the car. They want a kid that can bring money, and
it's a business. It just is what it is.
It is.
And nowadays, you know, you look at it, it's certainly not mutually exclusive. And sometimes the kids with the money have had the best equipment, the best coaches all the way up.
Yep.
You know, you look at a guy like Stroll or Latifi, they're there for a reason. They can wheel cars, and
they had the money.
They had the money.
Yeah. That's the big part of it now. It's the wheel in the car. People say, well, we can teach them how to do that. There's no raw talent of like this kid. Like I see it all the time in karts where there's a kid that shows up, has never driven. There's a kid named Ethan Sigma, never driven anything in his life, doesn't even watch racing, doesn't know anything about it. Because of the COVID situation, all the other sports, he's a hockey player, was canceled. Okay. So his friend that races for us, and he's like, come do the arrive and drive. So we came, did the coaching, and Richard called me right away after this kid was in a cart, and he's like, this kid's good. I was like, oh, really? I'm like, okay, yeah, cool. And he's like, no, seriously, like, we're putting him in a cart this year. I'm like, okay. We throw him into his first cadet race. Yep. And
so he's young.
Yeah, he's young. He's 9 or 10 at the time. He's 10 at the time. We threw him in the first cadet race. He podiumed right away. Very first race. Doesn't even know anything about motorsport. Doesn't know what he's doing. Like, so the next race, he was leading. And last lap, the kid got by him, and then the kid blocked. Yep. He was so confused. He just drove down. He just drove the regular racing line and was like, why is that kid over there? And like, he had no idea what was going on. He got beat again. So he comes off the track. I'm like, Ethan, how confused were you when he did that? He goes, what was he doing? I'm like, that's called blocking. That's just blocking. The kid's there to defend and explain everything to him. And he's like, oh, that makes sense. I'm like, yeah. He's like, I had no idea what was going on. I was like, what an idiot. Why is he driving down there? Like, what's going on? Like, totally green to this kid. So then the next season, that was like the last 2 races of the year. He ended up winning one of the races because he took off, and I think in his 3rd race, he ended up winning. Yep. So we put him into another kart this year, class up in junior light, and he finished 2nd in the championship at Fellows. He finished 2nd or 3rd in the club championship, and he only lost the junior light championship in the final round of Fellows. Like, it was like the final race he had to. So he's now a racer. Yeah, he's a racer now. And he's going to continue on? Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Again, his, not to put business out, but he's a single mom. Yeah. Stuff like that. So it's really expensive for her to do stuff like that. And we're helping him out as much as we can. Yeah. To keep him in the sport, but the mom's still, she's a single mom on her own. So do you think how good simulators have gotten, do you think that gives kids an opportunity? I think so. I'm a big sim advocate. Like, I really think that. Because can you, like, and I don't know enough. Like, I've got a simulator and I run around at Motorsport and I do the odd oval race and stuff to get ready for the season. But can you make a living on iRacing? You can. It's crazy now. A lot of manufacturers are actually, like, if you look at the F1 teams, they all have a sim team, like 2 fully paid 6-figure drivers that are racing for them in the sim. Okay. So, and they race they're like Ferrari contracted drivers, and Mercedes. Formula One. Yeah, Formula One. Like, they're on the same sim that, say, Lewis Hamilton's on, or Leclerc, or any of their drivers. They're on the same sim, testing and driving and doing all that, and they're paid to race a sim. There's a Formula One esports championship, and there's 20 guys that are racing for the factory to win that esports championship. And is that, I guess there's advertising money there. Yes. And the cost is low because they need to have the sim anyways. Yes. And are they just seeing it as the teams are seeing it as a benefit to have because those guys keep running They also have that agreement with the F1 gaming system. I forget which company makes it. I think it's Activision. You mean like for Xbox and PlayStation? Yeah, exactly. So because they have that, they the like F1 is kind of being like, okay, in the off season, how can we still have our viewers engaged in our season? And then they do the off season is when they do the esports championship.
Okay.
So then now each team like Mercedes and Ferrari and all of them, they all have their own packages that they race with. So PlayStation has an agreement with Fanatec, so they all have to have a Fanatec wheel, base, and pedals.
Okay.
So they're all on the same pedals and stuff, but then some of them are sponsored by SimLab, some of them are sponsored by, different cockpit manufacturers. So then those manufacturers will sponsor the team and give those guys cockpits. So then Fanatec sponsors them the gear, and then the cockpits and everything else around them is sponsored by one of their...
Crazy.
Yeah, and then even in NASCAR, they're starting to do the same thing.
Yeah, there's like an
IndyCar,
esports NASCAR. I saw some kid, a Canadian kid won, like a kid from Nova Scotia or something?
Nova Scotia kid won, yeah.
That's
and
great.
It's wild. Like these... iRacing is very NASCAR related. So like they're
sure.
very NASCAR related. They're all over in like how many NASCARs in the Cup Series.
Yeah.
Right. So, when they see stuff like that where there's, at any point on iRacing, there's probably 20, 30,000 people online playing. So when they see that type of advertising, that it's just like, here, I can just be on a page, and every day someone turns on their system, and it's 30,000 people that are going to turn on their system.
And real fans.
And yeah, exactly, because they're paying for a subscription of iRacing. iRacing, I think, is, for track-wise, the closest thing you can be.
So explain to people what iRacing is.
So iRacing is just the online company, a company that's online that provides all of the servers and tracks and all that stuff.
And they like laser scan each track.
Yeah, they're within I think it's within a foot of everything.
Wow.
So like when I'm going somewhere to go race and I haven't driven there in a while, I'll go on iRacing and lap for a week just to get used to everything. And the only thing you have to get used to when you go to the track, it's like your reference points and everything are there because they use the tree. Like in Virginia with Oak Tree, like they have the tree there. At Montreal with the orange stripes on the side of the wall where you use those reference points are there. Like they laser scan the track to within inches. And it's like every bump, nook, cranny, everything is on that track. Like, where something like Assetto Corsa or one of those other manufacturers, their engineers.
These are other software?
Yeah, there's other companies that
sim.
are competitors to iRacing.
Okay.
There's R Factor and Assetto Corsa are pretty much the two that are their competitors, but they are based off of, say a computer engineer takes the data from your car and builds the track from that.
Oh.
So it doesn't exactly get the feel out of the track because it's going off of how the car is reacting to the track. Right. And then it uses like Google View and stuff like that to take what the track layout looks like. And then it will take the elevation and then they'll punch in a bunch of calculations and then this is what the track should be. It's not exactly what the track should be.
So not like iRacing where they go out there and walk the track with whatever
drive the track with all their laser scanning equipment. And I saw them do Motorsport. And it's like they sit on the corners, scan everything to every elevation, every part, and it's like you're driving the track. And it's that's why I like iRacing a lot more because the tracks are very detailed. They went into making sure the track is the best thing it could possibly be. Where someone like Assetto Corsa, it's all about graphics. Like the cars are incredible graphics. Like you see everything
But who cares? You're in the car.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right. R Factor is kind of a mix in between. But that's the same type of thing. R Factor does it off of engineers.
Right.
The car dynamics is pretty good on R Factor as well. It's kind of like a split between iRacing and Assetto Corsa, but for servers and everyone racing and being online with proper people, iRacing's definitely the best way to go. Yeah,
it's funny because it's like everyone's so serious about it,
yeah.
And I'm like, I'm so not serious about it. And I get on there and I'm like, this is just a video game. Yeah. And for some people, it's their Saturday night race.
This is it. This is like, there's so many different series now that are online and you can have a sponsored team, and like a couple of my buddies are part of teams that are sponsored and they have their own liveries and like they race at certain championships, and it's like there's social media with them, there's everything with them, and it's pretty unreal how much the simulation world has grown and has made the industry grow a lot more too, because now all of a sudden you can be on iRacing and you can see how driving is, and if you can do it, and if you're fast and stuff like that. And then there's people that have gone from iRacing championships into cars and won championships in cars too. So
yeah, big sim drivers. I think it's William Byron, who's a big sim guy when he was younger.
Yeah,
and then like
now he races in ALMS.
No. William Byron in Hendricks in the 24 car.
Oh, okay. I thought it was
Cup.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I see that you see it every year. There's
like if you're fast on the sim, you might have some adjustments to make, but you're gonna be fast.
Yeah.
Like you have at least
some feel
motions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then that's the biggest thing when you see people go from iRacing to a car. It's just they have to get used to that, like our hips feeling everything. And the difference between a sim and a real life car is you don't have that hip feel. It's
the
all
visual.
it's visual and hands.
Right.
So you get all the feedback through the wheel.
Right.
So like when you start feeling that dead zone
maybe
to
if
create.
you have a fancy wheel.
Yeah.
I don't think I get the feedback in my wheel.
No, I would say you need a little bit of an upgrade. Let's just leave your sim alone. Yeah, it's when you drive my sim,
okay.
it's like,
it's not in your ass.
No, it's all in my hands. Like I can feel when I start turning in, and if the back end's starting to come loose, you feel the force starting to loosen up on the wheel as you're turning in, and you're like, oh, the back end's coming, and you can get the visual of the back.
So that's why you say that I need a new wheel.
Yeah, because you feel it. That's what I tell everyone. Like, I have a Simu Cube one. It was the first version of it, but it's amazing. And the biggest thing about a direct drive wheel is that it's a lot easier to save the car because you're not so far behind, with a wheel that you have.
I'm like, all the time I'm like, I'll drive like a super late model at like a little oval, and it's just like, it's loose as shit. It's undrivable. I can't catch it.
Because there's a dead zone with those wheels that you have, right? So like when you get to the center, there's like 5 centimeters, say, of a dead zone where it doesn't do anything.
Right.
So when you're correcting something, you have that dead zone that you kind of get to, and you're like, hold on, why is it? Oh, and then it just snaps on you because there's no input for those 5 centimeters of a dead zone, where a direct drive wheel has every millimeter of movement on that wheel is put through the shaft.
Okay, so I'll make the investment.
Once you do it, everyone that gets it, they're like, what was I driving?
Lauren's gonna hate you for that.
Yeah, sorry, Lauren.
Go into the cave.
Yeah.
I tell her because I've got the simulator set up, and I finally got a new screen since 2007. It's a curved screen.
Was it the big square box?
It was small. It was so bad, and it was like up on a Kleenex box. To me,
perfect. The fact that a Kleenex box can hold the screen, that just tells you right there.
So I've got that now, and now because I got into bicycle riding, so then I've got the trainer beside it. So I tell her, I'm just going into the metaverse for a couple of hours.
I'm going to go have a meeting in the metaverse.
The virtual ride my bike and virtual race my car.
That's awesome. Yeah. No, it's good, man. It's honestly, the sim stuff is grown so much, and I think it's definitely helped our sport grow.
For sure. Yeah. So the other thing that's definitely helped racing is the Netflix series, The Drive to Survive. I saw that the Abu Dhabi was the last race of the season.
Yeah.
I saw their viewership was 108 million viewers for that race alone, and the Super Bowl this year was 101 million viewers.
Yeah. It's crazy.
7 million more people watched the Formula One race than the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
You started a podcast or discussing Formula One season, probably just before Drive to Survive came out or something. So you're riding the wave of popularity.
We are. It's actually crazy to think about how many people are actually listening to that thing. But it's actually a lot of fun. I do it with Dames Nellis, who's one of the Virgin Radio DJs.
Okay. Virgin Radio is at Toronto?
Yeah, they're actually around North America.
Okay.
They have a spot in Vancouver, Toronto, LA, a bunch of them. Like Virgin. Yeah. Like it's actual, they're radio stations. He is the 5 o'clock guy that's on the radio, and he actually races for us.
Oh, cool.
So we, when we were at the shop, he would always come by on Monday or Tuesdays after the race just to kind of shoot the shit about everything.
And see what your take was.
Yeah. And we always had an in-depth conversation about it. And
right.
finally he's like, why don't we just film this? Like, I'm like, sure, man. Like, I'm down for it. So we started to film them and started to post them, and apparently people think we know what we're talking about. And yeah, it's growing. It's called Another Race Weekend.
Okay.
It's working out really well. We're going into season 2 now.
Nice.
Yeah, we've our last couple of casts were, you know, probably a couple thousand people were viewing them and stuff like that. And you know, it's just something that we just decided to do just because. Just
for fun.
Yeah. And
just like this.
Yeah, exactly. Just like this, just to have some fun doing it. And, you know, I've become, you know, in the past probably 5 to 10 years, I've really become like an advocate, like a really good F1 fan, I guess you can say.
Sure.
A really big F1 fan. I grew up watching it, and I know a lot about it, but you know, as you get older, you start understanding what the cars were like, and the you know, the upgrades and designs and stuff like that they used to have. And then, you know, from the V12 to V10 to V8, you know, the V6 era now. And it's just crazy to think about what those guys used to drive in the 70s and 80s and to the cars now that are like, look what Grosjean survived last year. Like, if you saw that 5 years ago, everyone, he's done. Like, that's it. And now with the halo and how safe these cars are, it's just incredible to see the safety side of things, and then, you know, understanding a little bit more as you get older about what the cars can actually go through, and you know, the difference between the cars and what their design is. You know, like with Mercedes and Red Bull this year, they had 2 totally opposite designed cars, and they were both competitive. One was a high rate car, one was a low rate car. Yeah. And to get cars on the opposite spectrum to be competitive against each other, it's incredible to show the engineering that's gone into these cars, and you know, being able to kind of bring some of my schooling into it and
expertise in racing.
And expertise in racing, and seeing, you know, the small things here and there that you can see that separates Max and Lewis from the rest. Yeah. And, you know, pointing them out to people, and they're like, oh yeah, I never really thought about that stuff. You just, you know, I always love talking about racing, and we always talk about racing, and being able to start something like that and actually have some success, we're pretty happy. Yeah,
no, that's great. You guys should definitely keep doing it. Because I mean, I see it, like, I'll go to a party, see someone from high school, a girl from high school that I haven't seen, and she'll say, "Oh, did you catch second practice yesterday?" What? Yeah. Yeah, they're at Spa this weekend.
Yeah.
And it's like, what are you?
I have so many, I always say now they're all Drive to Survive experts. Because, you know, like you said, it's made our sport grow like crazy. And having a Netflix series that makes it drama based.
Yep. It's good.
Like, it's the best thing for it. Yes, some of the stuff is made for TV. Yes, you know, Max doesn't exactly like it because they portray him to be what he is.
He's just a typical race car driver.
That's what I mean. They're portraying him to be what he is, and he doesn't like seeing what he's like. So, you know, when he's like, I'm not going to be on Drive to Survive this year, it's like, yeah, because they're calling you out and showing, like, they're not making up footage.
No.
The footage is there, and they creatively make it look the way it is. Yeah. So don't give them the footage. You won't have this.
I didn't know he was having a stink about.
Oh yeah.
He doesn't want to be on it.
He's supposedly not on it this year, but he won the championship. So I highly doubt that that's going to be the option.
You'd think some sponsors would say otherwise.
Yeah, especially Red Bull.
Yeah.
Like, so you know, it's definitely great for our sport to see this.
Another series made for TV, and I don't want to say that in a derogatory way. Yeah. The SRX series. Did you follow that at all?
Yes, I did.
What do you think of that?
Honestly, the first race was kind of confusing to see what they were actually doing. Like, it was like, oh, so they will race one-on-one against each other, but then like next race, it's like there's 4 of them on the track, and it's like,
yeah, they did like heats and stuff. I didn't follow it like super closely, but what's cool is you see all the names in it.
Yeah, like Loeb and
yeah, like Bobby Labonte, Paul Tracy's in it, and now this is it Ryan Hunter-Reay's going to run, and like
he's with
Castor Neves
and the like, team owners. Like Rosberg's a team owner.
Yep.
And same with Lewis.
No,
not the ever.
No, you're talking about.
I'm talking about the X. What's it called? The electric series that they're running and thing.
Oh, okay.
You're talking about
we were
Rallycross.
Having a big miss. Yeah. No. I'm talking about You've got to look it up. It's interesting. It's called the SRX series, and it was Ray Everingham started it, and like Tony Stewart.
It's that spec series
made for TV.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember that now. Yes.
And they ran like mostly little ovals and a couple dirt races.
Yeah.
And it was, but like if someone got too far ahead, they'd throw the caution.
Yeah. I remember this now. Yes. I was thinking the what's it called again? It's like X something series. Extreme X or something like that, or
I don't even know.
It's like that. So they made a full series that travels around to different countries that are, I guess, being affected by global warming.
Okay.
And they run a series where if they go to a location, they have to be able to go there, race, and leave without changing any carbon footprint whatsoever. So all the electric vehicles, all of them are, all of the pits and everything are run by batteries. And
sounds questionable, but we'll leave that out.
That's just, I know all this battery stuff, and it's like, yeah, it's better for the world. Well, how? Yeah, whatever. We'll leave that out. Yeah. But that's Nico Rosberg owns a team. Hamilton owns a team. Sebastian Loeb races in it. What's his name? Sainz's dad races in it. And then all the team has to be a male and female.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
So then, that's what I was thinking you were talking about.
Well, so clearly there's more and more series coming out that should, and I think should be made for TV.
Yep.
Like that's what made racing popular.
Yep. For
people who weren't just hardcore enthusiasts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That I know the SRX cars now, and they're like, how do I explain them? Yeah.
They're stock cars, but with like a wing at the back.
Yeah, and like a weird swoop to the front of it. Yeah.
Like Chase Elliott ran one. Paul Tracy's, I think he hit everyone in the entire series.
That's awesome.
But I think it's good, like those series made for TV.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. It's got to, there's got to be some aspect to keep everyone involved, and the problem with F1 throughout the 90s, there was the Schumacher dominant era.
In the late
90s, early 2000s. Yep. And, when he was winning, 15 of 20 races, it's kind of like, oh.
Well, that was when I was little, and I remember asking my dad, I said, will he ever not win a championship?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, it'll change eventually.
Yeah, sooner or later.
But
yeah, it's wild. It's good. Like seeing all these series that they're, like you said, they're trying to build for TV. They're making sure that even NASCAR is kind of built for TV now.
For sure.
Like with this green, white checkers
I think green, white checkers should be implemented in every race series. If you end the race under a caution behind the pace car, it's not good for the fans.
It's not good.
Yep.
It's not good for the fans. I think, to bring up the Abu Dhabi race with the last race, it was, all they had to do was red flag it, put everyone on super softs or softs or whatever.
Yep.
And it would have been the greatest finish ever.
Yep. But they don't have that versatility, whereas NASCAR does. NASCAR can say, these are the rules today.
Yeah, today. Yeah. Well, if you look at what Michael Massey was doing, it's like, that's the rule for today.
Yep. And that's always the way series have to run, though. They have to have a dictator who's going to dictate.
Yeah, yeah. And I think, hey, nothing against Michael Massey. Like he had a stressful job, and no one's going to always be. They're not going to be not everyone's going to be happy with your decisions, but when you have a decision that is being influenced by the guy that is in the championship hunt, you should just turn those two radios off and be like, don't even listen to them.
For sure.
And he did listen to the one which kind of catered to that championship, and really and truly, his job is gone now because of it, but it is what it is. It's a hard job. Shit happens.
Worked out for the sport.
Yeah, worked out for the sport. Like everyone can't wait for this championship this year because they don't know what's going to happen. I think, going to the end of the season last year, Max had Lewis kind of by the balls. It's like, we crash out. I don't care. Go ahead.
Yep.
Like, I crash. You won't get points. I don't get points. And I still lead this championship. Where now that they're going to start from scratch, I think you'll see Lewis like going at Max, like not caring. He's just going to be like, oh yeah, you want to crash? Fine, let's crash. Start of the season now. No one has this. We'll make this up later. You want to crash? Let's crash.
Oh, that'll be good. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
Wait.
Yeah.
I got one more question for you.
Go ahead.
You've got a young daughter now.
Yeah.
When is she going to start racing, and what's your game plan for her?
Everyone always says, "Oh, Isla's going to be in karts. She's going to be in karts." I'm
or whatever she wants.
Yeah, I'm going to let it happen. Let her whatever she wants to do. I'm not going to be the guy that's like, "You're going in a kart when you're 3."
Yeah.
She never wants to get into a kart. She never wants to get into a kart. I'll support whatever she wants to do. Don't know if I want to get into dance, but I will definitely support her with what she wants. I'm not gonna. My niece is racing right now too, and it's really cool to see her, get her podium and stuff like that for the first time. And I think with Isla, it's she watches F1 with me whenever there's cars on. Like I watch obviously reruns and stuff like that of F1, and she's always like, "Oh, dada, dada," like always pointing at the cars and stuff. So I think it's kind of inevitable. But I'm not going to be the guy that push her. Like, you're getting in a cart right now. Like, I know a couple of my buddies that have had kids and like, as soon as they can walk, I'm putting them in the cart. And it's like, yeah, I get what you're saying. You do want to, kind of push them into it. But I've seen it too many times where the kid starts really young, and by the time they're 9, 10 years old, they're like, I'm done.
Yep.
I don't want to do this anymore. So, I'm kind of the dad that will just, hey, if you want to go racing, yeah, let's go do it. If you don't, you want to play soccer, sweet. I'll buy brand new shin pads every single race, every single game,
every single race, because it's definitely cheaper.
Yeah, it's way cheaper. I bought new shin pads and a new soccer ball every game, all day. Let's go. It's cheaper than a set of tires.
That's fun. That's good.
Yeah, man.
Man, thanks for coming on.
No problem, man. This was fun.
Absolutely. Yeah. And man, everyone who goes and races in Ontario knows your name and knows who you are, and like everyone has nothing but good things to say about you.
Thank you.
And they're like, you're a true cheerleader for the sport.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I do indulge in enjoying this sport.
That's good. And tell everyone where they can find you and your podcast.
So you can find me
in your team.
Our team is so my race team. You can follow us. It's Pro Racing Ontario on Instagram and all the social media stuff. You can follow us also at motorsportkartingcenter.com. Full arrive and drive programs, everything you need to go racing. You want to get started, we're the guys to talk to. You can follow my podcast of Another Race Weekend, or ARW. It's going to be on all of social aspects. We're on Facebook, Instagram. We're going to be on YouTube this year, Spotify, pretty much everything that Dames wants to do. So you can definitely follow us on Another Race Weekend. That's pretty much it. You can just follow me on all the social stuff.
Cool. Thanks, dude. Thanks for coming on.
No problem, buddy. We'll talk soon.
That was Darryl Timmers. And as I said to him at the end there, he's one of the most likable guys at the track. He's super helpful. And that's what makes him so good at his job. If you enjoyed the podcast, please give it a rating. It helps a lot with the algorithm. See you next week. Peace.